If searching for a top-tier movement, higher water resistance rating, increased reserve, a unique case material, or full Swiss-made backing with more exacting standards are must-haves, you'd be amiss if spending thousands of dollars on a timepiece was the only route available. Although there may be a dwindling number of highbrow naysayers who laugh at the idea, the general consensus, even from many leading industry experts, is that $1,000 or less is all you need to source an exceptional watch with solid specs, beautiful design, and a credible reputation. In this guide to the best watches under $1,000, we've dedicated ourselves to sourcing exceptional references in each tier, from respected heritage brands to solid mid-level makers to innovative micro-brands breaking new ground in a very old industry. Kicking things off with a micro-brand favorite, the Baltic MR01 combines excellent finishing, a unique movement, and some elegant design choices to create something unlike anything else currently occupying the market. Assembled by hand in France, the MR01 sold out almost immediately when it was first released in 2021. Upon first glance, the watch is, in a few words, a dying breed, at least when compared to the rest of the dress watch market. From the true-to-form Breguet numerals to the off-centered sub-second dial to the pitted salmon-textured finish, all are notably reminiscent of Swiss Vacheron Constantin's offerings from the 1920s, or even a modern Patek Philippe Calavatra reference 5022. Smallest on our list by a significant margin, the Baltic MR01 uses a 36mm case width, a compact 44mm lug-to-lug, a standard 20mm lug width, and is just shy of 10mm at 9.9mm thick. The all-around mirror-polished stainless steel case utilizes a push-pull crown at the 3 o'clock position, and is noticeably reserved in order to let the rest of the dial stand out as the watch's most prominent feature. The decision to high-polish every exposed piece of steel is an apt indication of its intended use as a dress watch, and we're on board, seeing as the overall classy air wouldn't work had Baltic chosen to outfit the case with any lesser degree of finish. With one of the most unique edge-to-edge display case backs that we've encountered to date, the Baltic MR01's rotor and movement can be viewed under the clear sapphire crystal, while also denoting the 30 jewels incorporated into the caliber, along with the caliber specification itself. Demonstrating great color theory, Baltic's MR01 salmon dial variant ships with a complementary dark blue Italian cath leather strap with a slight taper toward the buckle. Opting for a 20mm lug width, although convenient for finding different strap options, is interesting considering shorter lug width choices available of 18mm or even 16mm, given the small 36mm case sizing and proportion. Perhaps if Baltic went shorter here, the overall presence on the wrist would feel markedly more feminine as a result, so the thicker 20mm lug width does the heavy lifting to compensate for the compact case itself. Sitting beneath high-dome Hesalite, another distinctly old-school choice by Baltic is the Hangzhou Caliber 5000A movement. Unlike most on the market, the micro-rotor movement is on full display via the unique edge-to-edge window, opting against a thick caseback bezel for a great view and easier maintenance with a conveniently positioned half-dozen screws. Producing less inertia than other self-winding movements, the Baltic MR01's micro-rotor produces 42 hours of power reserve, meaning that you'll probably have to wind the watch often if solely reserved for formal occasions. Although this could be a negative for modern tastes accustomed to 80-hour reserves in droves across the current watch landscape, utilizing a micro-rotor movement means a full view of the movement itself, unobstructed from what would otherwise be a larger, centrally mounted rotor on a different automatic non-quartz movement. A nice touch here. The Baltic MR01's rich salmon dial sits beneath a high Hesalite glass with high-polished Breguet numerals, a 60-second dial bezel around the perimeter, and a distinctly off-centered smoother sub-second dial between the 6 and the 9. We mentioned Vacheron Constantin or even Patek Philippe as design references, and the Baltic MR01 certainly rubs shoulders with both, given the thin teardrop shapes of the hour and minute hands, the type of applied numerals, and even the single offset subdial placement. Offered in 3 colorways, we prefer the salmon dial with the blue leather strap as the most unique choice, but if your tastes are even more conservative, there are 2 other options in blue and silver. Nearly all current dress watches have become increasingly minimalist in design to align with the public's ultra-modern tastes. The Baltic MR01 runs in the opposite direction, harkening back to what constituted luxury in a largely bygone era, making it an excellent watch selection under $1,000. Considered to be one of the most popular choices at this price point is the Tissot PRX Powermatic 80. As the name suggests, the PRX Powermatic 80 is another homage from Tissot, with the late 70s inspired case shape but reimagined with contemporary mechanics and a new design, aimed to pair with the pace of modern life. Tissot's kept all the design elements of what makes the PRX great, and infused a versatile self-winding Powermatic 80 movement with a Nivikron hairspring for added magnetic resistance, a feature that also combats temperature variations while maintaining precise time. And not to be taken lightly, as the name suggests, the PRX Powermatic 80 reserves a full 3 days of movement, exceeding similar offerings at this price point by a substantial margin. As a contemporary retrofusion, the PRX Powermatic 80 uses a sharp, fully brushed 40mm 316L stainless steel case, mirror finished bezel, an extremely short 39.5mm lug-to-lug, a thickness of just 10.9mm, and a 12mm lug width from the integrated QR bracelet. The PRX Powermatic 80 does have an updated silhouette, but maintains the same barrel shape the 70s inspo references sported when first released half a century ago. And although the watch maintains a 100-meter water resistance rating, the Tissot branded crown is a push-pull unit, so taking this into the water may elicit some anxiety, and as such, we can't recommend this as anything close to a decent diving pick. The crystal clear sapphire exhibition case back displays the wave-engraved centrally mounted rotor powering the Powermatic 80 movement, and the outer bezel provides the bulk of the case's specs for easy reference. Fans of the bygone style will appreciate the PRX Powermatic 80's integrated single-link stainless steel bracelet, which is still interchangeable given Tissot's quick-release functionality on the 180. And although there are 12mm straps and bracelets floating around on the market, much of the PRX's charm stems from the iconic flat-link single-row default bracelet that comes standard with the watch. As such, we'd recommend picking this reference to wear as is. And if you're familiar with our other previous critiques that we've levied at Tissot, you'll know that we'll disagree again with the decision to incorporate a butterfly clasp on the PRX Powermatic 80, as we just find it cumbersome and overwrought. For a watch with everyday use specs, a simpler clasp design could make it dependably more utilitarian for a quick on and off. The Tissot Caliber Powermatic 80 movement is a powerhouse Swiss-made 23-jewel motor based on the renowned ETA Caliber 2824-2, arguably ETA's most dependable and most utilized movement to date. Crafted from a titanium alloy, the Tissot is enhanced with a Nivicron hairspring marketing anti-magnetism properties. The PRX Powermatic 80 then should be able to regulate changes in temperature and handle bumps or dings without affecting the accuracy of its timekeeping. Nivicron tech was first introduced in 2019 by the Swatch Group, so you can bet that Tissot and other Swatch Group brands will certainly continue to utilize this innovation for future releases. Unlike the smooth dials found on smaller sibling, the PRX 35mm, Tissot reserved the waffle texture exclusively for the 40mm PRX Powermatic 80. Offered in a few different color variants, the blue dial version sports loomed high-polished indices, loomed hour and minute hands, and a simple but matching framed white date window at the 3 o'clock. If you're looking to stay true to vintage styling, the blue dial version followed up by the white were the most popular colorways in the 70s to use the barrel-shaped case design Tissot allowed as inspiration for this reference. That being said, we also think it's the most versatile. Under the radar enough for everyday use, but also adding a pop of color if worn with a dressed-up ensemble. So with limited qualms about the reintegration of Tissot's often used butterfly clasp design aside, and with an impressive reserve, bolstered mechanics, and a sharp silhouette, the Tissot PRX Powermatic 80 easily takes a slot in our top 5 best watches under $1,000. At 1.9mm slimmer than the 600 series, 300 meters of water resistance, a revamped stainless steel case design, and an overall lighter wear on the wrist, the Christopher Ward C60 Trident Pro 300 diver is an impressive evolution in the brand's catalog since their very first release in 2005. Upon first inspection, the C60 Trident Pro 300 packs a punch even with the slimmer build. Fans of the diver style and Christopher Ward's previous releases will gravitate toward the Pro 300's bold loomed indices, sleek ceramic bezel, and red accents. From the dial text to the red tip seconds hand to the two-tone rubber strap, the Trident Pro 300 has obvious curb appeal. Setting a new standard in Christopher Ward's development process, the C60 Trident Pro 300 is a synthesis of expert craftsmanship and public feedback taken from Ward's own forum. After the success of the iconic 600, many users voted for a thinner case design. At 11.3mm thick, 2mm less than the 600, the reconstructed brushed stainless steel case dubbed Light Catcher now embodies a 40mm width, 38mm and 42mm options also available, a 47.45mm lug-to-lug, and a standard 20mm lug width. The logoed screw-down crown is on par for a diver with 300 meters of water resistance, and the ceramic inserted unidirectional bezel rotates with a series of uber-satisfying clicks, with bold loomed markers surrounding the bright anti-reflective sapphire crystal. Through an exhibition case back, Sellita's 26-jewel SW200-1 movement can be visually taken in, with an engraved Christopher Ward rotor supplying enough inertia for 36 hours of reserve to keep the diver ticking, but more on that later. Every great diver needs a great strap, and the Trident Pro 300s is by no means an exception. Our variant shipped with a duotone black and red 20mm item. As a hybrid band, the durability of high-grade Cordura and the comfort of soft rubber makes the watch's wear experience unlike any other we've tested, making for an ideal blend that really sets the 300 apart right out of the box. The exterior is rugged, scratch-resistant, and provides great tactile grip when putting on and taking off the watch. Underneath, the grooved red rubber molds to the wrist for an uber-comfortable fit that's also breathable. However, if you're in need of an all-metal option, Christopher Ward has you covered there too. Plus, the 20mm lug width makes finding third-party substitutions just about as easy as it gets. And finished with a simple Christopher Ward branded stainless steel buckle, the C60 Trident Pro 300 is an easy-on, easy-off affair. As mentioned before, the Christopher Ward C60 Trident Pro 300 employs a trusty Sellita SW200-1 caliber workhorse, made popular with the 600 spec diver, the main rival to the ETA 2824-2. It's on full display via the exhibition caseback with Christopher Ward's own custom engraving on the striking two-tone black and silver rotor. The presentation is a marked deviation from the 600 that opted instead for a high-shine full stainless steel screw-down caseback, a feature that most likely has something to do with safeguarding the diver's generous 600 meters of water resistance. So then, the evolution of the C60 series diver seems true to the word, changing the strap design and material, reimagining the caseback, adjusting dimensions for an all-around lower price point, and without sacrificing the movement that made the 600 series so popular in the first place. Moving on to the dial, simply put, the high contrast of the Christopher Ward C60 Trident Pro 300 is sharp. From the pointed spikes of the Trident seconds hand to the short acute taper of the hour hand, Christopher Ward has taken the celebrated dial design of the 600 spec reference and streamlined it even further. There are three apparent changes when comparing the 42mm Pro 600 reference to the 40mm Pro 300. First, the Christopher Ward flag logo has switched from black to bright white, adding to the dial contrast by matching the bright loom set indices. Second, the Pro 300 leaves behind the CW text found on the 42mm Pro 600 reference at the 9 o'clock, a smart use of space given the shorter width of 2mm. Lastly, the frame date window / half index combination now rests at the 6 o'clock position instead of at the 3, like more traditional divers. And not forgetting its utilitarian genre, the indices and hand shine bright with Superluminova grade X1 BLC1 to support great nighttime visibility. The Christopher Ward C60 Trident Pro 300 is a remarkable evolution of the C60 line, thoughtfully designed in tandem with user forum feedback from believers of the brand. As such, it's difficult to levy any complaints. Instead, we'll simply applaud the successful democratic process Christopher Ward employed when creating the C60 Trident Pro 300, an exceptional diver with a sub-$1,000 price tag. Keeping in the vein of reference evolutions, the Hamilton Khaki Field Titanium Auto is another stellar example that made our top 5 best watch picks under $1,000. Staying true to what makes the original stainless steel mechanical reference so iconic, Hamilton has switched to a lightweight full titanium case and a fully automatic H10 in-house movement with an 80-hour power reserve for a timely refresh. This 42mm version measures a lengthy 51mm lug to lug, a typical lug width of 20mm, and a thickness of 11.75mm, for an all-around 66 grams on the wrist. For context, the 38mm mechanical stainless steel version weighs 58 grams, so with 4 more millimeters width and with automatic tech, the titanium revamp only adds a mere 8 grams. As the name implies, the titanium case is the first of the Field Watch's 2 most notable changes, but like the stainless steel version, it uses the same brushed or PVD coated finish, keeping the overall exterior quite familiar. Dimensionally, the lug width is probably the most controversial aspect of the entire Khaki Field line, with differing opinions depending on the width of the user's wrist. For our wearer with a larger 8-inch wrist, we found the 51mm lug dimension suitable without any overhang, but we can certainly understand the divisiveness here. On the 180, a display caseback showcases the Swiss-made Hamilton Caliber H10, a 25-joule automatic movement with a centrally mounted rotor that offers up to 80 hours of power reserve on tap. When combined with a screw-down crown and 100-meter water resistance, the Hamilton Khaki Field Titanium Automatic is a clear everyday wear option. In addition to the case material and automatic movement, the Titanium Auto swaps the classic NATO band for a duotone premium leather strap with a branded H-buckle hardware. Out of the box, the band comfortably conforms to the wrist for an easy wear experience without any rubbing or pain points. This will only get better with time as the leather starts to break into your own wrist dimensions, and the OD green exterior will no doubt develop a nice patina over time with regular use. Referenced earlier, the second most notable element of the Hamilton Khaki Field Titanium Automatic is just that, the H10 caliber automatic movement. Derived from an ETA C07.611, this in-house motor supplies a whopping 80 hours of power reserve, defining this reference as a truly top-notch sub-$1,000 option for everyday wear. And although we haven't experienced this firsthand with the H10 caliber, automatic movements can often sacrifice accurate timekeeping as a trade-off for increased reserves. While not officially disclosed, users have reported up to plus or minus 10 to 15 seconds of deviation per day. Visually, through the crisp sapphire display caseback, users get a front row seat to the centrally mounted rotor with clean finishing, a smiling Hamilton text punch-out, and an H-icon to match. Contrasting the no-nonsense utilitarianism of the 38mm mechanical, the dial of the 40mm titanium automatic revamps the classic heritage style with textural contrast, duotone colorways, of which there are 3, and a more detailed dial bezel. With closer inspection, wearers will also notice a unique texture to the 12-hour ring, with a gloss that reflects more light than the inner and the outermost matte finishes. And the outermost edge of the dial uses a similar applied bezel to the Fieldwatch's mechanical predecessor, but adds numeral minute markers with adjacent loomed orange dots for quick readability. So like our other evolutionary references, the Hamilton Khaki Field Titanium Auto would be the obvious choice if you were already considering Hamilton for the iconic 38mm mechanical, but couldn't justify a watch that didn't meet the demands of a fast-paced lifestyle. By default, this leaves the Khaki Field Titanium Auto as the next best choice, clocking in just under $1,000. Diving into our final pick, if a markedly dressed up or highbrow aesthetic suits your tastes, then the watch that might perfectly fit the bill is the Longines Conquest 43mm, a solid luxury watch pick under $1,000. In the interest of transparency, the Conquest VHP, or Very High Precision reference, was our first choice. However, since Longines has decided to phase this out of their catalog, we figured the original reference would be a great starting point to introduce any and all unfamiliar with the lineup. The two most prominent aspects of the Longines Conquest 43mm are the sizing and the finishing. With a stainless steel case of 43mm in width, a lug-to-lug exceeding 50mm, an 11.5mm thickness, and 193 grams of weight, the dimensions certainly demand your attention. However, if you're in need of a smaller case size, there are 39mm and 41mm options available as well. Additionally, a fixed outer bezel and a large standout crown and crown supports are all finished in high polish, with the remaining case and lugs brushed for contrast. A 22mm lug width stands up to the larger case size, but still accommodates swapping bracelets should the need arise. The screw-down caseback is a straight-up solid choice, featuring the winged hourglass branding and providing information on its Swiss-made construction and 300 meters of water resistance. In terms of the Conquest finishing, the exterior certainly takes inspiration from the Rolex Explorer, with the same mirror polish on the bezel and similar brush surfaces on the lugs and case. So if you've been looking for something akin to this icon, the Conquest may be the ticket. The full stainless steel bracelet has 2 levels of high polish all the way around the wrist, and the rounded 2-link construction feels comfortable even with the branded butterfly clasp design that seems easier and more secure than similar units integrated into Tissot's latest offerings. Even though a more standard fold-over may still be the way to go here, it's a solid option for the price. And a 22mm lug width shouldn't make finding third-party bracelets or straps too difficult, and the dimensions hold up well relative to the substantial case size. At the heart of the Longines Conquest is an auto quartz caliber L157 with end-of-life indication, with a day complication positioned at the 3 o'clock. The movement is where the VHP references and the base Conquest references deviate the most. Seeing as the VHP models will no doubt hold their own on the secondary market, we'll provide reference for this caliber as well. Developed exclusively for Longines, the VHP quartz calibers boast accuracy of plus or minus 5 seconds per day. When compared to the plus or minus 15 seconds of the regular quartz calibers released with the original Conquest variants like this 43mm reference, the VHP edition makes sense for those who prioritize accurate timekeeping over deep water resistance, as the 43mm VHP sibling maintains only 50 meters. Moving on to the dial, the Conquest is a thoroughly minimalist affair, much like the Explorer. Using only 2 applied Arabic numerals at the 12 and the 6, simple squared-off hour markers, then evenly spaced indices, matching loomed hour and minute hands, and a stark white date window. The rich jet black dial stands in stark contrast to the bright white and silver details, with the winged logo adding to the undeniably masculine silhouette. The loomed indices and hour and minute hands are framed with high polish and glow bright for decent visibility in the dark. Seeing as the case is rated for 300 meters of water resistance with the screw-down crown and with the presence of bright lume, this could also loosely categorize the Conquest as a decent diver pick if you happen to lead a sportier lifestyle. Swiss-made and backed by a rich heritage, the Longines Conquest or Conquest VHP are both solid dressed-up yet functional options for a sub-$1,000 watch. Sure, we're sad to see the VHP calibers phasing out of the Longines catalog so soon, but we're confident that the secondary market will still have these readily available. If you're already a fan of the Explorer but don't quite have the budget to ease your appetite, the Longines Conquest is an apt alternative you can proudly wear on the wrist.